Hello and welcome to another episode of this Python course. In this episode, we will take a look at how we can iterate over data using for loops. You may want to iterate over data for a variety of reasons. Let's say you want to calculate the sum of some numbers, or you simply want to check if a value exists. Well, you can do exactly that using a for loop, a fundamental technique used by every programmer. We can declare a for loop using the for keyword. Then we use a word that we can choose that describes the data that we are iterating over. We'll use the word number. Then we use the in keyword. And finally, the name of the data. This could be any iterable object such as a list. In our case, we're using a list since numbers is a list of integers from 0 to 10. And to begin with, we're just going to print the values. So using the print function, we want to print number. And as you can see, all the numbers within the list have been printed. Let's say we want to sum up the numbers within the list. We can do that. If we declare a variable called total count, initialize it with the value 0, and we want to increment total count at every for loop iteration. So total count plus equals, which is to increment, and then the number. And what will happen is total count will increase at every for loop iteration. So starting at 0, plus 1, plus 2, plus 3, all the way to the end. And we're going to print total count along the way, just so we can see exactly what's going on. And there we go, we can see that the final value is 55, whereas we started at 0. This is a very simple example of how we can use a for loop. There are more advanced ways of iterating over objects, and I'm going to give you a brief summary of how we can change the word numbers, which is the object we're iterating over, to using some functions that will iterate over the length of a given object. Because let's say you don't just want the number, you also want the index of the number. So let's say you want the value 3, but you also want the index of 3. So we can do that. If we scrap this, we're going to use the range function, and if you hover your mouse over range, it will describe how the range function works. So in our case, we're just going to provide it the length of our numbers list, which will return an object that produces a sequence of integers. So this is in our case, we're going to provide it length, which will return the length of numbers. And you'll see exactly what range is doing if we print number. You can see it's printed from 0 to 10. But you have to remember that these are not the values it's printing. Although they do match what's in the list, these aren't actually the values. And I can prove that by changing 0 to 1. And if we run this, you can see that we do not get 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. We still get 0, 1, 2, 3. And that's because it's printing the index. Number currently at the moment is the index of these values. So in order to get the value itself using the index, we have to access the object, so we put the S on the end, since we want to access the list. Then we use square brackets, number. And you can see we are now accessing the values. That is because numbers is the object, number is the index or the position of each of these integers. It's always good to name your variables or values that you're iterating over properly so that you understand exactly what they are. So in this case, instead of using the word number, which could be a bit confusing, you can either use index, IDX, I. Those are probably the most common. I'm just going to use IDX, and then remember you need to change number to IDX here as well, since we're using the index value to access the number. Thank you for listening. I hope this video was useful. You should know how to use a for loop. In more advanced videos, we'll be covering for loops over and over again because they're used so much for many different things, including problem solving. So please like and subscribe if you like the content, leave any comments down below, and we'll see you in the next one.